All right, good morning. Today we are going to talk with Jay Doran from Culture Matters. And why does culture matter in a family, in an organization, um, in friendship? So, Jay, welcome. Jay is an old dear friend of mine. How we met is a pretty funny story at an isogenics event. I thought he was part of it, and he was a greeter, but he wasn't part of it. And that was circa, gosh, probably 2014. So we're almost coming up on 10 years. Wow, I didn't even realize that. So welcome, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, and we're going to have a fun talk today about culture matters. And, I'm going to ask this question, Jay. You started this organization, Culture Matters, and what does that mean to you?
I'm going to read a quote. Um, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Friedrich Nietzsche. Work and how we work together, I think, can have an impact on our life, whether we realize it or not. It has an impact. So culture, to me, is people and how we work and live, and the dynamic of working and the dynamic of living and how they intersect fascinates me, scares me, and drives me to want to learn more and to be as helpful as I can be to those that have let us serve them in a business environment. So that quote sticks out to me. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. I think as business owners, we can provide meaning to not only our customers when we solve their problems, but to the people that work with us. And so culture is about people, and that's kind of where we can start.
Well, most certainly it is about people. And how do you bring people together when maybe they have different, we all have different backgrounds. We all came from a different place. So, what are some things that an owner can do um, of an organization to bring folks together when they don't feel like the culture that they want is there yet?
We can look at when we gather. Well, first of all, are we meeting? Right? Do we gather? So let's say we do. Because if we don't, well, then how are we going to have dialogue around who we are, why we exist, right? Why we're in business, where we want to go, how we think we can get there together, what each person, a part of the organization, what they desire personally, who they are, who they want to be, how they see themselves in the business that they're participating in. So when we gather, we can have dialogue, we can have conversation. We not only can share with our people where we're going, like where we believe we're going, and work together to figure out how we can get there, and talk about why we exist, and start that dialogue. We can also look at our meetings, our gatherings, and ask ourselves, or ask really the people in the meetings, how well are we listening? A gathering is easy to undermine, because we can go into it, and let's say the person in the corner of the room that hasn't said anything, they may not raise their hand. They may need to be asked what they think. They may actually at some point, beyond apathy, finally say what they think, and then they may be penalized for that, even unintentionally, by the leadership. And sometimes the most difficult voice to hear can give the strongest feedback of where the organization is weakest and where it can grow. So are we meeting? How do we meet? How do those gatherings actually occur? Whose voices are heard? Whose voices aren't? Those are elements to start really understanding what our culture is, and who has a voice and who doesn't, and what are our values in real time.
Well, that was a lot there.
Yeah, we could just focus on that.
That's a lot to unpack.
See you next week on the.
Yeah, okay. Luckily, we do gather often in our company, organization, and we have a standard, I would say script, but flow to our meeting. How it starts, what happens after that, then the middle part, and then announcing of the leaderboard, and then the thankful and grateful at the end. So we always start with a win, personal and professional. What happened that you're most proud of over the last week? And so, and then we always end with who are we thankful and grateful for in our organization that has helped us this week, or and help, and who's and what stood out about it. So I wrote it like almost like church. You have the opening, you have the closing, you have the middle with the gospel and the homily. So it's not just a random thing that we're doing. There's a purpose to it. And that took a lot of time and thought and tweaking of, okay, should we talk about this? How should we talk about that? And giving everybody a voice so that they can share with others, because if they have success, maybe somebody else in the organization could take that borrowed belief for themselves.
So let's say that we have a sandwich, and we'll use this as an example. The win in the beginning, maybe that's the top piece of the bread. The thankful at the end, maybe that's the bottom piece of the bread. The meat of the meeting will be, hey, how poorly are we doing, Mike? What's wrong with what's your view of me in my weakest moment? It's so think of the meat as we need conflict. Conversation is going to inevitably lead to the differings of opinion, and the leader will set the tone for the level of comfort and safety of the people a part of the meeting to be able to share their thoughts, feelings, and emotions to ultimately get to the solving of whatever problems that are going to be arising in the organization. So I like what you're saying about the how the meeting starts and how the meeting ends. That's something that I would agree with. And think of the content of the meeting, whatever is discussed, is going to be
that's the meat. That's the meat of it, right? So
yeah,
that's the meat of it. That's where you always want to start on a high note and then on a high note, and then in the middle is where you have
the middle is where
you might
playing
have
the song.
Yes.
But how we play it will be revealed in the thing, like the notes, how they sound will be worse the longer things are not discussed that may have been uncomfortable at one time, and now they're so uncomfortable they're not discussed.
So it's like we talk about delivering bad news as quickly as possible to, for example, to a client. Delivering it, well, best is in person, but that's not very realistic in today's time. But the phone is. Picking up the phone. Do you send an email or text to somebody when you got bad news for them? Or do you pick up the phone and tell them what's going on as quickly as possible? Or dragging it out. Like, for example, a deal fell apart. Right? So are you going to wait 2 days to let the client know, the buyer or the seller, that the deal is falling apart? Or are you going to pick up immediately and let them know right away? And then here's the strategy that we're going to do now based upon what happened.
The answer to that is proportional to how safe the human beings feel a part of the culture. And that's related to how they communicate with one another, and those in positions of power in the organization set the tone for that. So the team meeting can increase or decrease the level of anxiety, which increases or decreases the level of personal responsibility. So the ability to respond. If someone's afraid of their client, they're likely afraid of the institution that they're a part of. Now, generally, and remember, people that are new to something, they're afraid of everything because they don't know what they're doing. And so they're bringing that fear of the unknown through their lived experience into the institution that they're participating in. And it's going to lead to emotions. It's going to lead to miscommunications. It's going to lead to potentially the differing of opinion that's going to create it's going to either lead to less conversation, or potentially, based on the leadership and how that reveals itself, more conversation. And it's kind of counterintuitive. We want to lean into the tough conversations, and that creates trust, and it starts to speed up the productivity of the people that leads to the profit. So, by the way, we're only talking about one piece of culture here, which is gatherings. Like the medium. The medium is the message. Then there's the story. What's the significance of the organization? Why does it exist? How is that being articulated throughout the varying channels of the organization? Then there's the language. What are the values of the organization? What do we stand for? Who are we? What behaviors are we held accountable to? So language. Then we can go into symbolism. Are we proud to wear? So, like, are we proud to represent the brand that we're a part of? Well, are we even capable of doing that? Do we have symbolism to represent the meaning that we have being a part of the culture? So we can go in a bunch of different directions with it, but culture is about people and how people work together if we're talking about a business context. And as business owners, I mean, all of this is counterintuitive because, first of all, our first culture is the relationship that we have between us and our clients, right? Which is if they're the relationship that we have with us and our clients is can be far different than the relationship that we develop with those that we end up employing to help us with our clients. We might be the type of person that works with the type of clients that, let's say, steamroll us. So then we end up, taking that out on those that work with us. So anyway,
I've been there where that happened many times, and then I decided that I won't work or allow myself to be working with people that I don't like and trust. And that's a hard decision to make too, if you don't have principles and standards in place. But once you decide, so I'll give you an example. If a client calls this office, which I hate when people call because we should always be calling them, but nonetheless, if they're calling, yelling and screaming about something, and and I've been through this, and the office goes like this. They are like, oh God, I don't want to answer the phone. We know that we're not in alignment. And many, many years ago, I had this happen with somebody, and this relationship with this particular client was over many years, and many years I put up with it. And then one day I decided, no, I won't work with people that I don't like and trust anymore. And that is extremely, extremely important to me. If I think that one inkling that this is, because I can't have that to my people. They are not going to treat my employees or agents in a disrespectful way. And obviously myself, but it was a pain point for a while. And then it became no longer a pain point because I got very clear on what my standards and principles are. And I think and in business, when you're very clear about what they are and your mission and vision, then decisions become easy to make. They're not difficult. So,
how do you feel today versus when you were in those types of relationships, more antagonistic relationships with your clients in the past? If you were to,
it's completely different. I had a conversation with a new potential client yesterday, Dara and I. We went to go visit them at their office, and they said, oh, we can do a Zoom. And I said, no, we'll come and visit you in person. And they were super nice. And this could be a very large potential client for us. And when I met with them, I was so impressed by just how genuine and real they were. And I actually said, we look to work with people that we're aligned with, not just from a business standpoint, but a human standpoint. And you all seem to be good humans for what we had like a real genuine conversation. I said, it's really important because I don't want that. I don't want to be starting off with somebody in a situation where it's going to be tumultuous. And then I know that comes down on the staff and the rest and everybody else. So real estate is always going to be lots of hills and valleys and turns because it's just that type of business. We don't need any additional drama or pressure on top of all that we have to contend with on a daily basis to begin with. So I think that, that stems from the top and what you will allow. People will push you as far as you let them. And so I think having clear boundaries and taking personal responsibility, accountability, and being in contribution. So that's why today we're here talking, Jay, because I believe in giving it all back, giving it all back that and there's always something that somebody knows that they can give back and contribute.
I'd like to add something to that is that creating boundaries is important, and I've come to the belief, and I'm willing to be proven wrong with this, that I learn the most about myself from those that I like the least.
Yeah. You and I've talked about
I'm sorry?
You and I have talked about that many times.
The reason I bring that up is because if I have a blind spot, then those that are, if I have a blind spot, those that are questioning me or, how if I have a blind spot that's leading to a behavior that might not be benefiting myself, it will be mirrored in another. So, and their feedback. So now,
you said that yesterday on Facebook. You posted that yesterday. You posted that yesterday.
Oh, that's an interesting. Maybe we should talk about. I also, that's a psychological post because I often will write thoughts. I post thoughts, and I started writing thoughts that normally would be right in the like a you statement, right? Without thinking it through, it'd be a you statement. So I started posting what I naturally just share a thought in a you statement as the subject. So I'll speak in the subject form, and it's no different than if I were to write it in the you statement. So like I'll read the post. I said, responsibility was too painful for me. I made excuses because the suffering was too much. I wasn't even aware of my sufferings until I heard my enemies for the first time. The worst mistakes I make today are done with deluding myself into thinking I've stopped any of this behavior. I don't see blind spots disappearing. I see myself forever pulling back more of the wool. I'm just going to keep showing up and see how life turns out for me. What else can I do? Now, if I wrote that in a you statement, responsibility is too painful for you. You made excuses because the suffering was too much. You weren't even aware of your sufferings until you heard your enemies for the first time, or maybe you weren't listening. Like if I made it all about the you, right? Your worst mistakes are made today because you're deluding yourself into thinking you've stopped any of this behavior. You don't see blind spots disappearing. You'll be forever pulling back more of the wool. You're going to keep showing up and see how life turns out, or you won't. What else can you do? Like me, I'm trying to say this now in the you form, right off the top of my head. If I had said that, I don't think I would have gotten the onslaught of people like, Jay, are you all right? Are you okay? What's going on? I think I would have likely gotten people just agreeing like, amen and amen, brother. And I know somebody I need to tag on this post because screw them or something like. But instead I'm getting all these people commenting on the post, how are you? Like, I'm here for you. All these, it's interesting. All I did was write it in the
opposite direct, opposite.
Well, in my mind, theoretically, everything that's said through these social platforms is revealing of the autobiography of the writer. Right. And I'm actually aware that, yes, like I'm aware that I'm working on the very things that I teach every single person that comes across me. And it's so psychological, the fact that I put that out and then the responses change completely. Where can we go with this? Firstly, well, I'm curious, what do you think about what I just said and that share? Maybe we could start with that before I.
So when I read it, I immediately thought it was the opposite of psychologically of what you did. And maybe I'm not sure why I thought that. Maybe because I know you well. I think I know you well.
That would be a little cheating.
Yeah, a little cheating. So it's interesting though, because what you said is, I do all these videos, and a lot of times, some I talk about all different things, but most like real estate, inspirational, aspirational. A lot of them I do I do them as much for everybody else as for myself. Say, oh, I'm having a tough time, a bad day. I don't say it. It's revealing, I guess, of what we all struggle in some way, and I want to let people know that, like, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. You're just starting out in your career, or you're on level 10 or whatever. There's always something that's within us, regardless of how far you come or not, that could hold you back if you don't open your eyes and look for, what am I missing? Where can I work to be better? And I think that's what I'm doing with the videos. And I read your posts and I see, like, you're still and will continue to look for those blind spots. Look for where, because we still have them. Maybe we're not as many of them, or maybe we have new ones.
Well, I believe the blind spots are actually, they're even tied to the growth of the organization, because as we go higher in the hierarchy, we get farther from the consumer. The customer will tell us the value of our business. The customer will tell us the value of our culture. The customer will tell us what our values really are. The customer will tell us this. Now, they won't tell us this when we're too far away. They're going to tell our people this. And when we are not able to hear what our people are saying, because they're either not sharing it or they're sharing it and we aren't listening, we will not know how to continue innovating and adding value to the company. And this will be reflected in the company's profit inevitably. This will be reflected in the company's ability to sell inevitably. This will be reflected in the company's ability to establish brand over time. This will be affected in the company's ability to sell, to create other products to sell to the existing customer base inevitably. This is completely connected to the bottom line. So part of a point I'm making is I have found that the self-awareness, the ability to look at oneself and ask oneself, where could I be going wrong, can increase the likelihood of asking one of the people that works with me, for me, what am I doing wrong? As well as asking my clients that I like the least, what am I doing wrong? And I now can tell them what I think they could be doing better. I mean, I learn the most about my leadership from the people I work most difficultly with. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to move on from, like in your case, create boundaries. It's what can I learn as well. And it's important that as you know, as I continue to stare into the abyss doesn't stare back into me. So I think it's an important piece in my belief on the culture side that we learn from everyone that we interact with, and we don't so passively uh, uh, write off people that we don't feel whether we like or we get along with, or we don't just pass it off. We try to dig in a little bit deeper to figure out what's going on there, because that's going to actually increase our ability to continue growing our business through acquisition of new customers and growing accounts.
Oh, definitely.
It's a
There's
big
there's there's people that we work with that I don't particularly like or wouldn't hang out with, but I still believe that they're good people, right? Just because we don't have the same things in common. What's interesting though, we've talked about this over the years, and you're building an organization. You think it's about, stepping away from actually doing the work. And the more you do of the work, the better the organization actually gets. So we decided to, excuse me,
plus.
um, we decided to focus on getting back deep into listing properties at a very, very high level. And the more of it that we do, the closer we are to the consumer, the more we can understand what's going on in the marketplace, and the more we have the a bit greater capability to help folks, and it becomes very, very clear. We are so busy right now, Jay, because I decided to take this different approach. I mean, we're getting clients calling, we're calling, back, cold calls, expires, all this opportunities coming because we're being closer to what's happening in today's
I'd
market.
like to acknowledge you for that. So crisis reveals culture, and in this context, crisis has revealed your character, meaning you're as a leader, you're still willing to work and set the tone of your business. It's a testament to your character if that's the case. The people that are leaving the business, whatever business they're in time of crisis, it reveals the character. For whatever reason, they're entitled enough to not actually have to do what it is they told their whole community they were about, right? For whatever, how many years they were in the business that they were in, all the relationship they had, all the people they knew them as what they were before they decided to quit. So crisis reveals the culture. Crisis reveals the character of the leadership. I want to add to that and say, I believe, and I've been quiet for many years on this and I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore. And I've refused to do it because omission is a form of lying in a sense. But I believe the real estate community, by and large, based on, for whatever reason, the lack of research and development, the lack of integration of these larger corporations that hold the balance sheets of so many of these top realtors and so many of these human beings pursuing their real estate businesses, rather than integrate with these cultural employees, these subcontractors, and help them sell more and help them instantiate themselves more in these new innovations like we're doing now with, this is a form of building the business in the 21st century. A lot of it has just become ideology, which is the opposite of culture, meaning come here and join us and get everyone to join the business and you're going to get paid. So the industry completely went in a direction where short-term focused, more bodies, more revenue, and got itself away from selling houses. And incentives drive behavior below self-awareness. That's destroyed countless people's real estate careers. It's created many false propositions around what business ownership is. Business ownership is about working. Business ownership exists because there's a customer to serve. And a lot of people moved a lot of money around and attracted people to things that just aren't real. The real estate business is about helping people get home ownership. And when there's too many,
Yes.
when it turns into a recruiting machine, it undermines the ability for people to actually focus on who matters most, which is the customers that need home ownership. This happens in times of excess in every industry, but that's not culture. Culture is service. It's serving customers. It's relationship. It's responsibility. This idea that we should only do what we love it's an insult. It's an insult to the 100 million people that died in World War II. Like, we want to be real about it. It's an insult, right? If my mother did what she wanted to do, she wouldn't have saved me from foster care, right? It's like, so just think about that. Being a responsible person, a courageous person in this world, and building character is doing things you don't want to do, showing up and doing it anyway, and creating value. And I think the great opportunity in this industry right now, in the real estate space, that's going through a time of psychological culture shock by being, rates being higher. This is an opportunity to serve people that are trying to get home ownership. And it's not going back to the basics. It's what the business is. The fact that we even have to call that basics just shows how little we know about business and how big of a lie we've been sold. And like I said, I didn't say it, my thoughts for a long time, and I'm responsible for that. As opposed to that, I sold them out on the market behind the scenes like a coward. So I'm just going to go on these shows more and say what I think on these topics. So I don't want anyone thinking that I'm some great person here. I just see it the way I see it. And what I see is people unclear of what the role that really is as a real estate professional, and companies taking advantage of that and selling them false promises. And that's going to lead to long-term pain, because ultimately you're the product. So, right, not housing. So those companies that have done that, I think they're going to have a lot of pain in the next handful of years, unless they can figure out ways to brand themselves and or adapt and give very powerful resources for real estate professionals, like what you're doing today, sharing information through these social platforms, which is essentially marketing the 21st century, building community in the 21st century. They're going to really have a lot of pain. So that's just something I've been wanting to say. Thanks for the room to be able to say it on your show. I'm privileged.
So, well, thank you, Jay, because I know that you do have a lot to say, and you have been very quiet lately. So I'm glad the hair's gone, and and your voice is back. One of the things I want to go from what you said is that, when I entered in this business almost 20 years ago, I thought that it was a stupid business in the sense of how it's set up. So you come in and you work in a company where it's open brokerage. We have all these real estate agents, and we all sit next to each other, and we're all trying to do the same thing. Make our listing presentation, make our buyer presentation, do all this marketing. And no one human can do 7-10 jobs in a real estate transaction. And telling people just to go out there and talk to your SOI and you're going to have enough business to survive is a lie for most individuals. And I think that the business sells itself short by not telling the people the truth, the real estate agents the truth about what's going to be required to really succeed in this business, whether it's today, 10 years ago, 10 years from now. And that ultimately is talking with people, having conversations with people, asking them the right questions, having a mindset of a leader, more of a servant, but a leader servant, and that they are here to help people get into home ownership, to build generational wealth, And then when they have a need to sell, whether they're retiring, relocating, want to buy a bigger house, that they're there for them and that they serve not only them, but their family members. Uh, if they do a great job, people that they're in their church or referrals. And, but in the meantime, still growing and learning and making those calls, whether that's to expireds or for sale by owners or door knocking. But to sit and say that you only have to just call your SOI is won't keep most people employed full time in real estate.
I want to piggyback something that you mentioned about. So look at it this way: if we're in a position of ownership, how we serve either increases entitlement or breaks it of ourself. When I serve a customer, if I own the business, I'm in control. I'm in control. Like at the end of the day, I could be failing miserably, but I'm in control. Like I own it. I don't work. I'm not dependent upon anybody. So the service piece, that it humbles the entrepreneur. It humbles so we take this if you're 1099. You're humbling, because even if you work within someone else's construct, at some level you could just walk out, right? You're getting paid based on an outcome. There's a level of control there. There's an inherent entitlement there because, well, you don't have to serve anybody you want to. So you're not going to be let go it's a different kind of letting go. So there's the service that happens with the customer. It humbles the person in control. And when that stops, that feedback loop stops, it has an impact on the culture, because responsibility is the ability to respond. If I'm entitled, my people will be entitled. Now, this is the issue. Inherently, I'm entitled when I succeed, because if I made a whole bunch of money and I don't have to work tomorrow, I'm entitled not to do the things that got me where I am. That becomes a call to character, to work when you don't have to. That becomes a call to vision, to have something greater for who you could become. That's a call to learn, to have to understand the world bigger than you knew it before. It's like, so success destroys itself. It spites itself. So this, in times of excess, we always get away without really realizing it, especially in a cultural perspective, from service, from what business really is. And that destroys culture. It undermines everyone. And we constantly have to talk together with our teams and our partners and our mentors and our various advisors and our families and that are working with us in these things, and ask ourselves and ask each other, how are we serving? Are we serving? Are we working? Why are we? So it just in that piece there is that how we serve our customers, it teaches our people how to serve our customers. And there's a conflict between building the company, growing it, and how we serve. And I just want to fight against this idea that I see everywhere being sold to people. And I'm not saying with malintent, just it's being sold essentially not to work as business owners. If I hear passive one more time, I'm thinking slavery. It's like, so like we wanted to get away from kings and queens. So everybody wants to be a king. We don't like that, but everybody wants to be a king. It's like, okay, hold on, slow down. Now, if just to address some of the people in the back that might be curious about, well, wait, is this guy against taking a day off? I'll clarify this way. If I have someone operating my company, like we're at that level of leadership, I'm still going to have to serve them by leveling up at another level by communicating with them, by spending time with them. If I don't do that, why should they stay with me? Why not just do their own thing? And they will. And they will. And good. You know, Nietzsche said, the student that doesn't outshine the master has let the master down and themselves.
The student that doesn't outshine the master lets the master down and themselves.
Yeah, it's about evolution. There are being some of the best relationships in the world will leave our cultures. Like turnover is good. It's healthy. You know, you want a company with no turnover, go to North Korea. You know, that's going to destroy a company culture real quick. It's a company's value real quick. When people leave us, it's an opportunity to reflect, and it's also an opportunity to create more inevitable market share in the organization. And it's impossible to stop turnover for clients and people. It's how it turns over that reveals the culture. You know, that could be a place to.
Well, you leave people and bring them in and send them out the same way with love.
And you can always restart a relationship if you have more to offer in a business context. Always. You can always forgive somebody that you might not once have liked, or they may not have liked you. You can always write them a letter of apology. You can always go to their office and say, you know, sorry. Like you can always, one could always at least extend the hand and leave it the rest up to the other person. So this goes to the same for the people, the employees. It really pains me deeply to see companies undermine themselves in how they, you know, graduate the people that they've served and vice versa. And I know it's not easy. It's painful. There are people that hurt us. There are people that do things that are not either legal and or ethical in this world. And you know, that kind of goes back to that beginning quote. Life is suffering. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. And I think we can find meaning in the work when we work.
Yep. I was I guess I got away from why I did such a great job in real estate, and was trying to, you know, that whole lie of you're building a company and not working in the business, but on the business and all this BS. And then I learned, you know, I got perspective from other things that happened in my life, and very difficult times. And I learned that, you know, what made me so good was me doing the work. So it's back to doing the work and serving people at a high level and modeling for our organization what that looks like.
Yeah, and you're the best at what you do. So I'm excited to see what's continued to come from that, because, you know, that's one of your most endearing qualities. Like, think about this. It's on a Saturday. We're doing this live. You know, this is amazing. And I can't wait to see what this becomes as you continue to do it, and all the people that you already helped that, you know, they're going to continue to grow from being a part of what you're doing. So that's one of the things I admire about you. You actually do love the business and are not afraid of getting things done. And that's leadership, especially in tough times. It's like everyone's looking for leadership right now.
Yeah.
So I commend you for that. And thank you for being able to come on the show. This is awesome.
Thank you.
It's helped
Thank
me.
you. Yeah. Tanya's on. Tanya.
Oh, do we have a question?
She thanked you. And
thank you.
she wrote a lot of things here.
I always want to come back if, you know, whenever you decide to do with this, but.
Yeah, and we will do this again for sure soon. But I thank you for your words of wisdom and for your honesty and transparency. I think that's, you know, we don't have enough of that today. So I appreciate it. You know, I always say to people, you know, you might not like everything I say, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you the truth about what we need to do to get this property sold. And you might be mad, but later you'll be glad. Anyway, With that, Jay, you're the best.
Thanks.
Thank you for your contribution today and always. And I look forward to talking with you again. We'll check in and see. Oh, and Jay, I'm super excited right now because I think it's a tremendous opportunity
Mm.
for us to help more people than we've been able to in the past and just stick with what works, which is work works. So if you do the work and you show up and you keep going and not and obsess with the process and not the outcome, it will come together.
Thank you, Maria. And I would challenge people to go and find you, and if they're interested in the business, to mentee with you and interview, to be a part of your team.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jay. Culture certainly does matter. Thank you for your time today. And I am humbled and grateful for you. And I wish you a wonderful weekend.
On to the next show.
You got another one coming up.
Work works, like you said, right?
Work works.